I thank you for joining us at this T2. It's on Work Zone Safety Awareness event. My name is Sharon Morales. I am the State Safety Manager. At that point, you should all go, yay, we have one! And I hope to, for those of you in districts where currently the local district safety program manager position is vacant, yes, hope to fill those two very soon. I started the position of state safety manager on February 1st of 2018. So I have not been here for very long. But I did have another life, okay? I worked for the Virginia Department of Transportation for almost 30 years. I started July 1st, 1988. And I look around the room and some of you were, yeah. And I retired on December 31st of 2017. And in that time, I saw a lot of work zones myself, worked with a lot of people, and have a lot of memories. My position was in Southeast Virginia. I had a region. The Virginia Department of Transportation has 9 districts, which having a region meant I have more than one district. My territory, if you kind of look at Virginia, was what was called, at the time, was Tidewater and the Peninsula area. Now it's called Hampton Roads. But I actually went from Chase City, South Boston. Any of you are NASCAR fans, that's almost to Martinsville, okay? All the way to Temperatesville, Virginia, which is on the Eastern Shore. In other words, the Maryland line of the Eastern Shore. How do you get there? Anybody been across the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel? Okay. Now, let me back you up a bit. This is when the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel was just 2 lanes of bridge and 2 lanes of tunnel. Okay? Very auspicious to go across when it was 2 lanes of bridge and 2 lanes of tunnel. And we're talking about only a 13-foot wide lane because it was built in 1966-67. But it was a long haul when you're in Richmond, Virginia, and you get a call that there is a serious crash collision on Highway 13 in Accomack County. And you need to get out there because we've got 2 people in the hospital and a drunk driver has hit them. Now, a lot of the construction projects I dealt with, and there were many of them, suicide strip. You guys don't, you can infer what that means. From Highway 58 from Emporia into Suffolk was 2 lanes of Highway 58. Now it's 4 lanes, all right? The Interstate 64, which traverses from West Virginia, makes a dog leg onto Interstate 81 and then hooks off at Stanton and then comes all the way down into the Hampton Roads area, and then it makes a hook. So eastbound 64 all of a sudden in the Hampton Roads area, when you get to Chesapeake, eastbound 64 all of a sudden becomes westbound. But they call it the 664 beltway around the Hampton Roads area. But that didn't exist. It was just being built. So I had I-64, 164, 264, 364, 464, 564. Anybody know where Interstate 564 is? Branches off 64 at Norfolk, goes underneath the airstrip at Norfolk Naval Base and in directly into the Norfolk station. It's a little tunnel as well there, and it floods. Anytime there's heavy rains or hurricanes. 564 and then overall 664. Now Interstate 664 includes the Monitor Merrimack Memorial Bridge Tunnel. Now when I started, there had only been 5 tubes laid. 3 on the south, 2 on the north. Now when I mean tubes, I'm talking about a double-barrel shotgun sections of concrete that are sealed up with compressed gas within it, floated down from the Maryland shipyard, down through the Chesapeake Bay, through the James River, into a section of the Elizabeth River, and sunk in alignment at the James River going across from Suffolk Point over to Newport News, using radar to align it. Amazing, amazing. With an industrial engineering degree, I learned a lot of construction, from construction inspectors, project inspectors, learned a great deal about construction. I didn't even know how to spell cantilever. I do now. And if there's any particular job that I know about, then say a blessing on me. I know too much about surveyors. I know too much about drillers. And if you can see the catch on my throat, you know why. GDOT had 2 surveyors killed on railroad tracks. After the first one, we got together with Norfolk Southern, CSX, state police, and had a joint class with all of us. There were 9 Virginia Department of Transportation. We were called safety engineers then, and I and one other had an engineering degree. Others had various forms of experience and degrees, and we became grade crossing accident investigators. As you can see here, I had not only the basic accident investigation. At that time, they had been able to get some of the Virginia troopers through the training, but they didn't have what they now call reconstruction groups that came out with total stations. It was old tape and rule. Anybody know what I mean by tape and rule? Okay. See, I went to engineering school when it was a slide rule. I went back to school and finished my engineering degree when I had a calculator, okay? But I had basic advanced before they were able to finish training the Virginia State Troopers. So any accident that was within a work zone, they called us because we had the training about work zones. Every Virginia Department of Transportation safety engineer in the field, there were 6 of us, was called to any accident in a work zone, whether it involved us or whether it involved a motorist, because we were special investigators for the state attorney general. As soon as this state safety manager was notified of an accident, got the details, he notified the AG, and our work was put under attorney-client privilege. And we went out and did the accident investigation. Not only do I have grade crossing, but motorcycle. The one course they really were finally trying to catch up on, I never got, was truck. So I bought the book. As an engineer, read the book, learn what you can. And there's still some stuff about truck accident investigation I'll never know without having going through that class. And I don't really want to know. I'll leave that for the truck investigators because I've seen too much. I've seen every time the fleet came in, them drivers going through the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, downtown tunnels, and watching our, as we call them, safety service patrol. And as Gene Davenport knows, I sometimes catch myself where they're called hero operators. I'll call them hero patrollers. It's like safety service patrol. It took me a while to get the dialogue, to continue to speak Georgian versus Virginian. But when I talk about the number of safety service patrollers in Virginia, close calls and a couple fatalities, it hurts. But the job of the Virginia safety engineer was all safety for the workers, from first aid to fatalities. I trained on first aid, CPRs. I remember when AEDs came out, they were under a prescription of a physician, and then when the prescription process was eliminated because AEDs became unreliable, and we put them in places of public access. We have them on the floors here, and they're no longer required to have a prescription. Makes a difference. We've saved people's lives. I know that the people, I've had at least 2 of the employees that I trained in first aid CPR, safety service patrollers at the Monitor Merrimack Memorial Bridge Tunnel, who were on Saturday playing basketball 2 different times, and somebody had a heart attack. One of them saved his uncle by giving CPR. That's the kind of thing that throughout, and the other one, I've had notice from another one later on, he said he, in a work zone, had a construction worker having a heart attack. He was able to diagnose it and get the ambulance called. The guy did not go into cardiac arrest. So everything that we give as far as safety, whether it's the training, the workers' comp, hazard analysis, safety by design, you know, setting up a work zone. If you've driven in Virginia, Pocahontas Parkway goes 127 feet. I may have that number wrong. But because it goes over the intercoastal waterway, the distance you have to have is clearance. Maybe somebody here knows what that requirement of distance is. But the intercoastal waterway clearance distance had to be completely to allow passageway of cargo container ships into the port of Richmond. That bridge is a box beam bridge, and the bridge inspectors are expected to go up there. So working with safety, the bridge inspectors asked the safety to get a hold of the bridge designers, and the safety was designed at that point. So now when work zones are set up, they're not set up for long periods. They're able to do the work zone safely and with the equipment that they have. They designed the work zone, the interior of the bridge, so that they're able to set up that work zone and get within it with their candy cane hook ladders, and there's fall protection within the box beam. So it's and they have, they do it at a particular time of year when they know the traffic pattern, because otherwise a lot of the public would be watching this extremely long extension of snooper and then extension of ladder to get up to this location. When we were doing that process of design, we also included contact between the safeties and the Department of Labor and Industry of how would we get into this location because of the height extension. But that safety by design made it so that we compressed the time that our people were exposed to falls within that work zone, in that work activity area. So with all of those things from first aid to by design, there's a lot of things that are within it. And probably some of the things that still stay with me are speed and apparel. The first accident that I worked on was one in which the employee was at the side of the road on a shoulder, and this was all he was wearing. But it was plastic, okay? It was less than a bolero. The plastic bag that he was using to pick up litter, orange, was more expensive than the safety apparel. Virginia DOT transitioned into orange and then into high visibility garment, like this. But if you've got dark color, we found that it bled through. So we went to another type garment. We finally got to this point. This type of garment, bird's eye knit, was worked on by 1999. Zippered. We'd finally gotten to this point. We had fewer employees being struck, and we did by that time say we needed a sleeve, because when you stand sideways, now unless you're extremely gifted and are able to project a larger silhouette, a high visibility color to the front or to the rear, you know. But I'm fortunate I went down, got a lot of vendors' contacts, and went down to the School of, North Carolina State has a School of Textiles. Did you know that? So I went down and asked and found colors and found reflective tape and did tests and had feedback and kept trying. So I finally got asked last year, and if you look at the ANSI for 2015 on the inside, you will find that I was part of the consensus panel, and that was a privilege to be asked to look at the standard for high visibility. Because 25 years of looking at fabrics and materials and knowing what fits, I came in and saw this. And this is moving out. Okay? As this wears out on you, this is the new. All right? If that does not fit and move with you, that is one of the things that makes it so, because a high visibility garment is not to impede. And that is at least 2 of the accidents that I know of where the garment impeded the ability of the worker to move and get away. Now, you heard me earlier this week talk about the traffic accidents. A lot of them are not, it's not the DOT worker that gets killed, it's the motorist. This is the last of the accidents I worked in 1996. I still don't eat Snackwell devil's food cookies. I can still smell the burning cardboard, the burn of charcoal, and I can still smell the burn of the bodies. I-95 north of Atlee-Elmont. If you have driven up that area recently north of Richmond, it's where on the left you see a big shopping area. It says Green Top, and big loops of where 64 and 95 cross north of Richmond. North of that, GDOT was preparing to put 6-8 inches of asphalt overlay. But before they could do that, they had to fix the concrete. And this was the time period just after concrete. One of the materials that was developed was a quick curing concrete. You guys have heard of the quick curing concrete? What does it take now? Used to take somewhere between about 8-10 hours to cure back in the early 90s. Come on, somebody remembers the early 90s with concrete cure? Come on. I'm not the only one remembering that. And now, what's the concrete cure now? 4 or 6 hours before you can lay traffic on it? And this is one of the first projects that involved a quick concrete cure. They had already done the outside and the inside lane that left the middle. So they were doing the middle. 2 tractor trailers. 1 tractor trailer ran into the queue just beyond the advanced warning sign. After it burned for 30 minutes, they pulled the vehicles apart, and there was a Dodge van pulling a trailer with 4 bicycles on it. 5 people, a grandfather, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, and 2 grandchildren by the name of Diaz, and they were Puerto Rican from Orlando. And I'm so glad I didn't find that out until the week after. And then it took another week after that before I fell apart. I am really good at, in the midst of an accident, I work it all the way through. You will not see me flinch. As many of you, if you were downstairs and heard that balloon pop, don't flinch. Carry it right on through, right? But I want to express to you what this involved, okay? Why were we out there? When did we get out there? What did it involve? I've already told you about the concrete cure. Why were we out there? When did we take the lane? What was the traffic volume? How did we give notice? Highway advisory radio. Any of you heard of highway advisory radio? Giving notice, it involved getting with communication. What was the communication plan? Was the notice given? When was the notice given with the communication? Who did we notify? Had we notified the trucking companies? What was the notice on the highway advisory radio? When was the last time the highway advisory radio sent out its signal? What was the truck volume? How did we know what time of day to take the lanes? Had to get the truck volumes. What was the traffic count? When was the traffic count taken? Do not think that any part of this agency was not touched or asked about for this accident. What was the traffic design? Could we have put a detour in? How come we didn't put a detour in? Every aspect of this particular accident involved every aspect of the agency trying to go through and answer the questions before they're asked. Yes, it involved one tractor-trailer company, a family, and another tractor-trailer company. But who has the deepest pockets? The DOT. The DOT. So by becoming the investigators, we have to look at absolutely everything. State police report, diagram, project, traffic engineering portion, traffic control plan, the work area protection manual, any particular modifications to the work area protection manual, the public relations packet, news release, advisories, the listing points of contact, the public relations plan, the actual release, interviews, project diaries, highway advisory message for the detour of the collision, the special provisions for patching hydraulic cement, concrete, the general notice of a limitation on operations of the maintenance traffic from the contract, memorandums concerning reductions of speed. Now, those went back a ways, and there were amendments to the memorandums of the reductions of speed. Sign sheeting specifications. The highway advisory message for construction, the portions of the highway capacity manual, the pre-construction minutes from the pre-construction conference and with the attendance log, the diagram for the remaining traffic control devices, and the detailed diagrams for transition. That's the types of items that it took to keep the Virginia Department of Transportation out of the litigation. Once they approached the Attorney General's office, and the Attorney General shared with them just the listing of the table of contents that I shared with you, the trucking company backed off trying to incorporate litigation with us, and the family also backed off trying to incorporate litigation with the Virginia Department of Transportation. They settled with the trucking company. But situations such as accidents in work zones, it requires every one of us to do our jobs as well as we possibly can. And don't think that you as a designer or you as somebody who files something away, don't think that it might not get called into question. You're needed. The Diaz family I have Dia's family, but this family was not mine. It was somebody else's. I appreciate that I've only gone to a few funerals and have only been in the medical examiner or morgue as many times as I have fingers. I have yet to start counting on my toes. Please help me not to start counting on my toes. At this point, I offer you a chance to ask me questions. Work zones are rather sobering. You know.
Sharon?
Thank you.
Sharon?
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
What drew you into this line of work? What was your calling that brought you to safety?
God had a hand in it. Okay. I had breast cancer 34 years ago, and so I met a chemotherapy nurse. Okay. I had finished my industrial engineering degree and was living at Fort Bragg. And when I finished my engineering degree, I tried to apply Black & Decker, Kelly Springfield Tire Company, Western Publishing. Even my in-laws lived nearby, so I put down their address and could not get hired in 1986 as a female industrial engineer with a history of having lived in Lawton, Oklahoma, working history in Babenhausen, Germany, working history in Lawton, Oklahoma, working history in Raleigh, North Carolina, working history in Greenville, North Carolina, working history in Raleigh. It's kind of telling that you are a military spouse. There was no military spouse protection at that time. So my chemotherapy nurse indicated that her husband was looking for somebody to help him. He had started up a one-man company. It's no longer a one-man company. It's called Environmental Resource Center. So I went to work for him. And then after a year and a half, he decided to expand, so he let me go. And so I was back looking in job ads. My sister-in-law saw an ad, and my husband was switching from active to reserve component. And so we were going to have to move anyway. And she saw an ad for Richmond. It said, safety engineer, need a construction background. I kept going, I don't know construction. And she kept going, look, you helped your dad complete this basement. So my sister-in-law, and she said, you did all the electrical with him. I said, yes, electrical scares the pieces out of me. Of course, it's fine. You know, so I went up and interviewed. I walked in, and my boss, the guy who became my boss, looked up to about here because he was expecting a short Hispanic woman. But since I had been teaching throughout while we were in the military, first aid CPR courses, I had completed an industrial engineering degree. And when I answered certain questions, he liked what I had, gave me the opportunity, and I fulfilled what he wanted. And I learned from there. And the reason I moved up as a supervisor in 5 years was to make a difference in training and to continue to make a difference. And so after 5 years in the field, I became a supervisor for the field. I had 5 of the 9 districts. And that's why, in addition to my own accidents, I did about 50-some accidents of my own, and then another 150, 200 I reviewed, including the 3 fatalities that occurred at the Springfield interchange. And probably one memorable that you turned into a movie, if you remember, of the 2 children that were switched in the Charlottesville hospital. And it started because of a massive traffic accident on I-81, where the child was taken to the hospital and they wanted to give a transfusion, but it turned out that the surviving parents were not her parents. That was off of a Virginia Department of Transportation work zone accident. You know, but I got in it because I'm a survivor. Nobody should die on the job. There's too many other things that can kill them, and I know that, you know. And I thank you for asking that question, you know, because I continued to work. I retired for 30 days. You know, it's a passion, not a job. But thank you. Yes.
I don't want to make you more upset.
No, I'm just, yeah.
Obviously, you're very touched by what you do. How do you separate it when you go home?
I can separate it, but I really don't have to. I'm married to a retired Army officer, and for the first 10 years I stayed home, but as the supporting spouse, he's been through some of those, where his soldier died with a gamma goat twisting and his head was out and the helmet crushed, and we lost 2 twins at 5 years old in a sand pit, and we went through these things. But we also are very strong because our son was shot in Afghanistan in April 6, 2008. So we're strong together. We share with one another. So we don't necessarily separate. We actually share, and that makes us stronger. And by sharing, that actually lifts the burden. And that's kudos to my husband for allowing me to share. For that sharing, it's a relief. Yes, sir.
Sharon, with the Commissioner's emphasis on collaboration and innovation, how would you suggest that GDOT employees take that and use it in the work zones and other things to make it safer?
To take this kind of information and sharing, that's where work zone safety information, whatever touches you, be able to open up, and by exchange of information, whatever touched you, find a way in which to share the information that you have in a unique and innovative manner, so that we're exchanging one department to another and not continually stovepiped. All right? We need to always reach out to one another, and that takes some innovation. And it takes it like this, making it fun, where, okay, yeah, this is traffic engineering edits. I've reached out to construction, I've reached out to Hero, but I'm safety section. And that's one of those ways where if we can find a fun way to exchange what we do, the concepts of what we have, and just share with our closest partner. If you're constantly working with another group, share with them what you do and find an innovative way in which to express what you do, so that you find easier ways and pathways to exchange that information. If you're finding things are difficult to exchange, that's where finding those pathways to express it. And this is where doing it, people learn differently. This is doing, seeing, touching, and that's where we need to express it with different learning methods. And that's the innovative part, okay? And we need to do it across all of our sections and not just stay within our little stovepipe. The more we're able to reach out, and several of us know one another, or we've worked in different groups, and we know how to make things from the other section. This might have been easier. We need to continue that dialogue. Make that dialogue more open, and if it takes exploring it by touching, seeing, doing, let's explore this. Some people learn better by graphic dialogues than exchange of email. If you have to send more than 3 emails across, get off your butt, go up, and go talk to someone. Okay? All right? You know, you know, if it's more than, if it's gone over, come back, and you're about to send it again, hey, let's talk. Let's go take a walk. Let's get away from the phones. Let's go take a walk, okay? Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you all.
Let's. One more time for State Safety Manager Sharon Morales. My name is Ike Daru. I'm in communications. I've been here a little over a year, probably actually going on 2 years in September. And Sharon is the only safety manager that I've known, and she's the real deal. As you guys can see, coming from VDOT with a vast knowledge and experience. Quick story, our videographer Travis was on top of a ladder yesterday taking a photo for Go Orange Day, and Sharon stormed across the lobby and grabbed me and said, "You need to be spotting him." And I saw my mother in her scolding me. So, but that just goes to show how passionate she is about safety. And, you know, I have many more examples of that with my brief time with Sharon. So Sharon, thank you again. Thank you for doing this. We're blessed to have you as a department and agency. All of you guys, thank you for taking time off of, you know, your busy days. I know how busy you are. This is kind of, you know, we try to schedule it right before lunch. With the commissioner's blessing, my director, Scott, Katina, assistant director, we've brought back a sort of lunch and learn and revamped it as T2. You know, kind of pulling from that TED Talk type of feel where subject matter experts like Sharon, like yourselves, can have a platform to discuss what you do. I think there are times that we work in silos and we don't have a lot of cross communications between departments. So that's the purpose of this here. I'm going to ask you guys a favor. You guys could do a survey on your way out and just, you know, look out for more notifications for the next T2s coming up. We have more popcorn. Sharon, if you want to help me with that bowl there. Go ahead, sir.
I got here late, I apologize. You've heard some previous employees close calls, but I'm getting close to retirement. My name is Raymond Kitchen. I work in the Office of Planning and Data. Excuse me, not planning, transportation data. 33 years ago, on the morning of September 16th, 1986, I was working in an aerial boom bucket out in Mableton, Georgia. Me and another crew member who was a rookie, he'd only been on the staff for about 2 weeks. He was my flag man. And about 10:15 that morning, a tractor trailer driver decided he would just blow right through the flagman's flag, telling him to stop because my boom was lower than the signal head. Well, to say the least, I was struck and ejected 50 feet down the roadway. I suffered a compound fracture to my tibia and fibula, dislocated my right shoulder, suffered a cerebral concussion, and I spent the next 14 days in the hospital. I had a steel rod put into my lower leg, but I had to wait 72 hours for that to occur because they were afraid my brain would swell. And by the grace of the Creator, it didn't happen. So they drilled down my leg and put the rod in. Stayed in the hospital for 14 days. Got out. Took me almost a year to recover, but unfortunately, a few months after that rod was put in my leg, I developed a staph infection. And unfortunately, I was told I'd have to go on a IV treatment. And if the IV treatment did not work correctly, they were going to remove the lower half of my leg at first, to see if that would stop the progression of the staph infection. And again, I was taking 9 bags of IV a day for a month and a half. And to say the least, today I've got my right leg. But these things happen so quickly, in the blink of an eye, can't even capture it. Over my career with DOT, I went back into that bucket and I went back to working on the road again. To say it was easy, no, it wasn't easy. Because I worked on interstate projects with just that cone between me and vehicles going 75, 80 miles per hour. Just as these hero guys back here standing up against the wall are subject to every day. It's a treacherous world that these maintenance workers work in, because it can happen at any moment in time. And I was one of the lucky ones. My name probably should have been on one of those orange cones that day, but it wasn't. I was the lucky one and survived. So if you see me walking around the building, which many of you have, and I wear these sunglasses, is because I have effects to this day with sensitivity to my eyes and light. But I've wanted to share this with this group and with the others that have already spoken. I was one of the very lucky ones. And I've had a long career with DOT, holding various positions out of District 7 mainly. And I wanted to share this with a lot of people that I've never shared it with before, because it's not something that's easy to talk about. But thank you for allowing me this time to bring it to your attention.
Sir, if you could stay after, we'd love to get your information and maybe hook you up with our editor, Liz Rothman. Maybe you could do a blog. And let's give one more hand to our maintenance workers in the field and our heroes. I think, we enjoy the AC and, working indoors. We don't really keep in mind that we do have a GDOT family that's in the line of danger, and that's their workplace. So thank you. Thank you for your service. Wow, so at this time, I think we'll go ahead and do the raffle. So you want to give me a hand, Sharon? Call it out. Mix it up.
Oh, wait a minute, I mean, geez, I can't see it. All right, flip it over. Dave Williams. Aren't you good?
Okay, we're gonna have 4 more winners. So Lily Hardman. All right, come up here, Lily. Let's see.
Okay. Is this what it is?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Blanket. Awesome. Let's give it up for Dave. Let's give it up for Lily. Okay. One more blanket. So Kim Grayson. That's 3. Okay. 2 more gifts. Jill Franks. And our final winner I don't like this person. I'm joking. I'm totally joking. Jackie Williams. Okay. I've never met you, Jackie. I was just kidding. Okay. So Sharon, in about 10 minutes, or
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll start right away.
okay, Sharon has so if you guys want to stay after for her
Mock work zone.
mock work zone
Mock work zone.
course, we'd be happy to have you. And if you could please fill out a survey on your way out. Let us know what you thought about this T2. Let us know any ideas. Maybe suggest someone in the department that has an interesting story to tell, or even yourself. So thank you, and that concludes our T2.